Molly Bish, a 16-year-old young lady who was loved by everyone that knew her. A lifeguard, who in the summer of 2000 reported to her station and was never heard from again. This is Night Owl. Today we'll be whisked away to the small village of Warren in Massachusetts. A sleepy little town of less than 5,000 people. Nothing overly interesting ever seems to happen there. In fact, a lot of the residents didn't even bother to lock their doors at night. It was the home of a 16-year-old girl named Molly Bish. She was a sweet and charming young lady. She was born in August 26, 1983, to Maggie and John Bish. In the summer of 2000, she got herself a job as a lifeguard watching swimmers at Coleman's Pond. Wow! She didn't mind taking on tons of responsibility at all, did she? I mean, let's face it. Being a lifeguard is one of the most vitally important summertime jobs someone can get. And she loved it. Then came the day of June 27, 2000. It started off like any other day. The sun was shining, the birds were chirping. Life seemed good. Maggie was taking her daughter Molly to work. En route, they decided to stop in and see Molly's sister, Heather, who was feeling a bit under the weather. After their little visit, they said their goodbyes, and Maggie and Molly went on their merry little way. Molly was dropped off pretty close to her lifeguard station. She said bye to her mom and then reported to work. A couple of hours later, Maggie and John were contacted by the cops. They reported that there had not been a lifeguard on duty for the whole day. All they found were her belongings. It was at that moment that Maggie and John Bish realized that their daughter was missing. Under the circumstances, the police started an extensive search right away. They believed that Molly was snatched just a few minutes after she had been dropped off. It was at this point that Maggie mentioned to the police that the day before her daughter went missing, she saw this suspicious-looking dude sitting in a white car smoking a cigarette. He had a mustache and was parked in the parking lot fairly close to the lifeguard station her daughter would normally work at. Now, he did give her a bit of the creeps, but not enough to make her worry that much about her daughter's safety. And on the next day, the day when Molly went missing, Maggie didn't see him. But others did. One person claimed that she saw a dude matching Maggie's description at the same parking lot on the 27th, but he took off before Maggie and Molly arrived. And another person said that they saw him on the 27th parked at a nearby cemetery. This cemetery was so close, in fact, that there was a short trail that led from the cemetery to the pond. Based on the description from Maggie and the others, the police were able to come up with a few composite sketches. Like this one. For what must have seemed like an eternity, Molly's family and friends tried to keep hope alive. Hoping that she was okay. And praying that any day now, she'd come charging through their front door with her arms open wide screaming, "Mom! Dad! Heather! I'm home!" But all those hopes and dreams came crashing down in 2003. When a lone hunter discovered a blue bathing suit in the woods on Whiskey Hill in Palmer. He, of course, reported it immediately, which resulted in a search of the area. And on June 9, 2003, they had indeed found human remains. These remains were, unfortunately, that of Molly Bish. Her remains were found about 5 miles or 8.0 kilometers from where Molly lived. Because of the condition of her body, there was no way of determining how she came to her end, but they are pretty sure that someone unalived her. The only thing they really had to go on was the eyewitnesses that gave the description of that creepy dude in the white car. From the composite sketches, they were able to come up with a number of suspects. One such suspect was a dude by the name of Rodney Stanger. This guy was a real slimeball. He was tried and convicted of the 2008 unaliving of his girlfriend of 20 years. A young lady named Crystal Morrison. In 2009, while the little buttercup was awaiting trial, investigators started looking at him in connection with what happened to Molly. Now, was there anything that could have connected him to what happened to Molly? Well, sure. For one. He lived in Southbridge, Massachusetts for about 20 years, a town pretty close to Warren. Then he upped and moved to Florida about a year after Molly was grabbed. He may not have owned a white car himself, but his brother did, and Rodney could pretty much access it whenever he wanted. He also loved to fish. In fact, one of his favorite fishing spots was at Coleman's Pond. And he was also an avid hunter. He used to hunt in the same woods that Molly's body was found. So, yeah, he definitely knew his way around the area. The other thing is, he bore a resemblance to the composite sketch that Maggie helped the police make. It really does look a bit like him, doesn't it? Oh, I should point out that Molly was not the only case they wanted to talk to old Rodney about. They also wanted to talk to him in regard to a case from 1993. It involved a 10-year-old girl named Holly Pyranen. She had gone missing from Sturbridge, Massachusetts, and her body was found a few months later. Molly, who was also 10 in 1993, heard of this case, and she had even sent them a letter of support. It read, and I quote, "I am very sorry. I wish I could make it up to you. Holly is a very pretty girl. She is almost as tall as me. I wish I knew Holly. I hope they found her. Molly Bish at age 10. Oh my God! Could Molly have been more of a sweet kid?" The police, however, never charged Rodney with either crime. Why they didn't pursue it more, I'm not sure. I couldn't really find anything on why they didn't. Maybe he had an ironclad alibi or something. I just don't know. As a side note, if any of you are interested in learning more about Holly, then no worries. I think I might make a video about her next. So just remember to turn on your notifications so you'll be alerted when that video comes out. Anyway, he was not the only suspect named. In November 2011, acting on a tip the cops got from a private investigator named Daniel Malley. In his tip, he pointed the finger at a dude named Gerald Stony. This guy had a rap sheet longer than my arm, dating back to 1980. In fact, in 2011 he was doing a stint in prison for repeatedly essaying a teenage girl back in the early 90s. I guess he did it like around 100 times, maybe even more. And what did he get for his crime? 10 to 12 years. Wait a second. That's it? That's all he got for essaying a kid over 100 times? I think he should have gotten life for doing it. But hey, that's only my opinion. They actually tried tying him to both the Molly and Holly cases and even publicly named him as a suspect. Upon hearing that he was now a suspect in both cases, he, of course, took the news with the dignity and courage of a man. Sorry. Just kidding. He actually tried to unalive himself. And as with everything else he tried to do in his life, he failed at it. Now, were there anything that connected him to either, or both of the victims? Sure there was. Mostly through his SA victim though. You see, she was actually Gerald's girlfriend's daughter. They lived in Warren, not too far from Coleman's Pond, where Molly was taken from. And his victim's grandmother lived in Sturbridge, where Holly was taken from. So yeah, there's that. Plus he had a pretty solid likeness to the composite sketches they had. And he did own a white car. Of course, after the sketches were released to the public, the first thing Gerald did was shave off his mustache. Now, they did collect a DNA sample from him in regard to Molly's case. And this is where it gets a little bit strange. It's been over 14 years since they took his DNA, and the authorities have never come forward with the results. And I gotta admit, that is a bit weird. But some have actually taken it to conspiracy theory levels. Because it seems old Jerry wasn't only a slime ball, but he was also a police informant. So, some people thinks the cops are actually suppressing the results out of concern that it might look bad if it came out that they had someone on their payroll that unalived a 16-year-old girl. Now, do I believe that theory? No. Not really. I mean, he being an informant really didn't help him much when it came to him being convicted of what he did to his girlfriend's daughter, now did it? Why have they not released the results? Not a clue. Incidentally, Gerald passed away in prison in November of 2014. Then on June 3, 2021, the DA of Worcester County, named Joseph Early, announced, based on tips his office received, that they had a new person of interest. A guy named Francis Sumner. What can I say about this dude? Well, to start with, he's a D-bag. With a capital D. He even had to serve like 9 years in the clink for aggravated SA in 1982. So yeah, he wasn't exactly a man of the people. So, what was his connection to Molly? Well, he owned a white car at the time for one. And he does seem to have a striking resemblance to the sketch. I mean, even Molly's sister Heather had said that seeing his picture was jarring. But there was sort of a problem with this potential suspect. He had already passed away on March 4, 2016. But they still wanted to test his DNA against the samples they have. So they decided to try familiar DNA by collecting samples from Francis Sumner Jr. And it turned out that it was pretty easy to track the dude down. All they had to do was go to a prison in Ohio, where he was locked up. Wow! Talk about like father like son. Anyway, they got a sample and tested it. And, well, there was no match. Which, as you can imagine, was so heartbreaking for Molly's family. But for some reason that the DA won't reveal, he still claims that they're still looking hard at Francis. He says he can't give out more info, citing that it's still an ongoing investigation. It's been just over 25 years, and still no arrest has ever been made. But the family still has hopes that one day, the case will be solved. And that Molly will get the justice and the peace that she deserves. Maybe you can help. If anyone out there has any information that might help, then please contact the Molly Bish tip line at 50845375575. Remember, the tip that you give may be the one that turns an open case to a solved case. Well, thanks for stopping by. But before you go, please tell me what you think. Do you think this case will ever be solved? Is there any suspect that you think is more likely than the others to have done this? Please let me know what you think in the comments. If you liked our content, then please don't forget to hit like, subscribe, and share. It'll really help me with those pesky algorithms. And remember, be you good or be you wicked, everyone deserves justice. Good night.